Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our webinar. Obviously, you signed up for it, so you know what it's about, higher education and advancing your marketing on that. But thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules joining us this afternoon. We've been doing a host of webinars, and just to do a little housekeeping, all of our webinars are on our website at adtaxi.com. They're under the resource section under webinars. So if you like this one, hopefully we have some others that you'll enjoy. You can view those there. Also, we'll take some questions at the end, but if we don't get to them because of time running out, we will answer anything on the email follow-up. So if we don't get to those, just know in our follow-up we will be taking care of that. Without further ado, I'm super excited about this topic, and I've got a great team of people with me. If I can get my slide to advance, that would be awesome. So with us today, we've got some great speakers. We've got Murray Warnoff. He's our Director of Research and Consumer Insights. Murray's got more experience in this realm than I do, which is pretty amazing. 20 years over TV, newspaper, multimedia, typical numbers guy, married with 2.7 children. And we've got Maria, our Marketing Content Manager, 6 years with AdTaxi, Ohio State addict, OH.
Hi-ho.
Come on. Waiting for that. Wife and mom of 2 human kids, believe it or not, and 2 boxers. Myself, Bob Batchelor, I'm the Director of Customer Experience here at AdTaxi. I've been immersed in digital ads since before the time of Facebook. I love AdTaxi. I love our breadth of solutions. We're able to customize it for what people want. I've worked with companies where, we're a 1 or 2 product solution, and sometimes it doesn't work, and I love our breadth here. So we're going to talk about some of that as we dig into the education marketing and how we can help you out with that, or just how to go about it. What I think is so really cool about this marketplace that many of you guys are in is it's insanely complex, especially on the social side when you think about all the audiences that you're trying to appease. So you've got the funders, the government, local community, employees, the students themselves. For our purposes for today, we're just going to focus on the prospective students, those people, the undergrads, the graduates, and of course, the parents that make a lot of the decisions as well. So on the left side, we are going to be focusing on that for today's discussion. Our syllabus, we're going to have Murray's going to walk us through the education marketplace. Then I'll cover the marketing foundations. Maria's going to cover the student-parent decision-making. And I forgot to mention a little known secret here, and I'll whisper it. Maria also worked at Ohio State's admission office for 4 years, so she brings us a ton of killer insights. Love that. And then, of course, learning wouldn't be anything if you're not going to apply it. So we're going to show some application of that, what some of the clients have done, and things that we think make for successful campaigns on that. So the trends, you can search these all day long, and they kind of come up with the typical, there's a lot of crossover from what people say are the trends for educational marketing. We took these from Linchpin SEO. I broke them down to what we consider foundational and progressive. So we've got search ranking, banner ads on high traffic sites versus low traffic, just to make that point clear. Promotion on social media, you're going to see some big numbers with Facebook, some other ones on that. YouTube, very powerful platform. They are the second leading search platform out there, right behind themselves with Google. Mobile-friendly websites. Obviously, with these college students coming up, they've had a device in their hands for a while. Then things, and that's where we're going to focus on kind of that foundational side. Things that are more progressive, kind of more cutting edge, personal voice assistants, live lecture and video tours, video and text chat, student interviews, high-profile endorsements. Maybe you have someone that went on to a pro team or is changing the world in biotech, so you want to feature them. Blogs, articles published on third-party sites, mobile apps. Get the picture. I'm reading from this slide. But let's talk about the marketplace first, and I'm going to hand it over to Murray to walk us through this because he's the man.
Bob, thank you very, very much. For everyone in attendance, I spent a lot of time just looking at numbers and trends and historic and projections. But we all know knowledge is not power. It's the sharing of knowledge and implementing that knowledge to achieve a strategic goal, a specific objective. That's power. And so when I get to do this, Bob, when you allow me to participate, I really appreciate it because, again, me holding this info is useless. Now, a second point I'd like to make is I will never know as much about what you do for a living than you do. That would be a silly statement for me to make, also a lie. But I'm with Bob. I look at this stuff constantly. The complexity and the different target groups and the efforts and what's going on, not just through traditional competitors within the category, but now all the non-traditional, what's going on in this, and I'm going to call it a business category, is unreal. All right, so we know that last year, U.S. consumers, the U.S. population devoted over $200 billion to the education category. Now, please, this includes nursery, preschool, elementary through high school, vocational and tech schools, college tuition, room and boards, book supplies and equipment, cash contributions to the educational sector, right? But in total, this is a boatload of money. We understand a huge percent of the U.S. population is engaged in education, right? And we also know the difficulties then, therefore, not just with the increased competition, not just perhaps with decreased funding from the government, changes in demographics and other business categories that directly affect us. These are some of the things we want to address as we move forward. So, just talking about where we stand right now. At the end of 2018, we know that 59% of all adults in the United States of America are educated beyond high school. We've got a chart coming up. That wasn't the case, you know this, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, heck, 30, 40 years ago. But the trend we see of people becoming better and better educated in the U.S. is continuing. We see on average, adults 18 plus have 13.5 years of education under their belt. Now, this would include some 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds who are still pursuing. So when they're out, this number may creep up a little bit. We know that 30% of all adults have attended a vocational or tech school at some point in their lifetime. I mentioned people making contributions to the educational sector. We know 15% of all adults who do so annually. That's about 18 million households. And we know where it really didn't exist decades ago, we've seen it growing, and especially now with the online capabilities, 1 in 10 adults is engaged in continuing education, 25 million of us here in the U.S. And again, I mentioned online college courses. We're about 14 million right now. This does include undergraduate students, but it also includes people not stepping foot on a campus at all, and this may include just a course here and there and whatnot. There is a lot of duplication among these different things, and again, the complexity is what really stands out, and so that's why we dig deep and deep, and as not just broad, but deep as well. All right, so I mentioned we had a chart regarding the education status of the U.S. population. To the far left-hand side, you'll see a stacked bar, and that's from about 5-6 years ago, 2012. And I wanted you to see that 11% of all adults, just 6 years ago, and 15% of all adults were educated with any post or a college grad, respectively. Right? What I wanted to do was to break this in half and have the educated up to college and educated over college, right? The under and over. And what you'll see is that the percent of people getting higher and higher education went in 8 years from 56% of us in 2012 to 59% of us today. Expect in the next year or two for this to pass 60%. Fingers crossed. All right. What we also know is that the acquisition or the taking on of debt is really sinking into the mindset of prospective students, whether or not they pursue higher education, and if they do, how. Sort of like when you go into a recession, what happens? People stop buying brand new expensive cars and they start buying used. People who are going to buy used start, spending on auto aftermarket to keep their existing used vehicle going. Well, this type of thing is coming into play regarding student debt. People are making some choices and it's changing what's going on. And again, when we talk about the tens of millions of families with student loan debt, when we talk about the size of it, which in total is huge, we're talking over $1 trillion, right? you can see how this might change people's perceptions moving forward. All right, so want to talk about some of the target groups, okay? We're going to look at college prospects. So these are your high school students, right? Going to graduate this year, next year, or in 2 years from now. And this is the group coming into the undergraduate course of study. We're going to look at grad school prospects. These are the people who have already completed some college or just have, and they're the best prospects for going into grad school. We're going to look at continuing education, and again, those people taking online college classes. And again, please remember, there is overlap between online college classes and college prospects, online college and grad school prospects. So right off the bat, regarding those college prospects, we're talking about really people 15 to 17 and 18 to 24, right? This is that group of people. Their parents on average are 40 to 44 years of age, a little broader, 30 to 54. We know that these people themselves, these prospective students, are employed full-time, 1/5 part-time, 3 in 10 not employed at all, right? And that's because some of them are paying their own way and don't have the support of mom and dad or only partial support. They themselves don't have that high of a household income, but the homes they're in do, roughly 81,000 across the U.S. on average. Then when we start talking about the grad school prospect, who's a little older, right? They've now completed 2-3 years of undergrad, or they've completed undergrad ready to go in. Now we're talking about someone a tiny bit older, at the core, primarily 21, 24. Secondarily, a little broader from a marketing standpoint. You'll see they're less likely to be employed full-time, obviously, because they're pursuing that grad degree, right? Their incomes are slightly lower, right? They may not be living in their parents' home anymore, so they themselves haven't progressed through their careers yet, but they don't have their parents to bolster their household income. Regarding continuing education, those people taking classes, not necessarily for an undergraduate degree, right? These people are a little bit older, right? Now we're talking 30 to 34, secondarily a little broader. Now we're back to 54%, give or take, of full-time employment. Household income now is one of the highest at 82,000. These people are largely employed already in the workforce. And then when we start talking about this mixture of online college classes, well, again, the core is 18 to 20, but we saw a lot of the continuing education people use this. We saw a lot of the other subgroups. So big and broad, this is an 18 to 44 buy. Yes, just under half are employed full-time, again, because they're concentrating a little bit more on the school. Household incomes aren't that high, okay? So big and broad, those are the demographics that we see regarding these individual groups. And of course, someone in one group could be totally different from someone else in the group. These are just averages, as are these. One of the things we look at, because we have to figure out how to talk to these people, is what we look at is the quintile or heaviness of usage, media usage. If someone places in a Q1, they are the heaviest users of any media. They're reading newspapers 7 days a week if they're in Q1 for newspaper. They're online all day long and every single day if they're the Q1 for internet. Same thing with TV and radio. If you're in Q5, right, you hardly ever or rarely use, never use a specific media. So when we start looking at what's the index of these groups for going online, and we see for college prospects, they're 24% more likely to be the heaviest users of internet than the rest of the country. Radio over index is a little bit at 106. Radio's always been a younger skewing media. Newspaper at 82, so maybe if you want to talk to their parents, it's a great media. And TV coming in of the 4 measured here at only 62. This is because they're either working or they're sitting in class or they're young adults and out and about. They're not sitting in front of a TV or a cable box. And then I wanted to share the continuing education, the grad school, the online college. And I wanted you to see perhaps it's because part of the schooling is online, but we see those with an online, pursuing online college classes, 156 index for being the heaviest internet users. And again, you'll see a very similar profile for radio, newspaper, and TV as we saw with college prospects. And then again, grad school prospects posting the highest internet index at 161. These people are the heaviest internet users of all of our individual target groups. After this, we wanted to know, all right, are you going online and what are you doing? So when we look at the 4 different groups, starting with college prospects, we see that 97% of these folks are online. We said these were younger adults. As Bob had mentioned, they were born in the internet age. A lot of them didn't get a cell phone when they were 21 or in the workplace. They got them when they were 15 or 13 from their parents. This is all they know. That's why this number is higher than the percent that watch TV. You'll then see streaming at 9 out of 10. Of those who go online, and it's virtually all of them, 9 out of 10 stream. 8 out of 10 are on Google, not search, but specifically Google. And of those online, 7 out of 10 specifically on Facebook, not social, specifically Facebook. And then I gave you the breakdowns for the other groups, and you'll see there are some slight variances. For instance, where we saw streaming, the leading activity of these select items picked for the youngest adults regarding the continuing education, somewhat older adults. Now search, or specifically Google, is number 1, followed then by streaming. And so again, there are slight differences, as are the different types of social networks they're going to, the types of streaming they're doing.
Yeah, and the one thing I like when we talked about this before is seeing that Facebook was so low compared to some of the other ones. We're seeing this new generation come up away from that platform, certainly, and we'll touch on Snapchat and a few of the others, but I just thought that one was pretty interesting right there. And then streaming as connected TV comes in more. I was surprised to see that a little bit lower than some of the other ones, but still, that it's the fact that it's even showing up across the board is strong. It's kind of amazing on that side.
Bob, you raise an excellent point. If you look at in pure number, if you're going after college prospects, there are more of these folks perhaps visiting Facebook over the course of the month. But they're a smaller percent of the total Facebook audience, where if you go to something like Instagram, now all of a sudden it's a much higher composition specifically of 18 to 34-year-olds, which is the college prospect and the grad school prospects. And then if you look at something like Instagram, very strong with the 18 to 24, but not as strong with the 25, 34. So again, depending on their age, depending on their internet usage, depending on their preferences, not just, hey, they're all doing this, but how they're doing it, what platforms they're on, do change significantly. It's an excellent point.
Cool. All right, you're continuing.
Right, so what types of information do students want to see from a college website? And we're assuming that this holds for the majority of all higher education, not just colleges, but and what we see is that they all want to see the majors and minors offered. And for the most part, everyone does a great job with this. 28%, 3 in 10 said, I want to see the costs. 15% said scholarships, which is tied to cost, and 10% financial aid, again, tied to cost. So when you look at all of these, 28, 30, 40, over 50%, man, they want some financial information. And again, this comes back to with some people, the growing negative perception of a 4-year degree, right? And an increased reluctance to take on debt, right? This is deterring a number of potential students. Regarding freshmen, right? These are the people who just chose a school, right? Just started their undergraduate degree, right? What did they tell us regarding the sources in their college search? What did they do? What did the most current class coming in, what did they do? 64%, 2/3, made a campus visit. I understand if you're 7 states over, that becomes difficult. I got it. Over half, 56%, went specifically to that college's website. 45% then, word of mouth, parents, family members. Now, if you go to any retail category, word of mouth is number 1 over any type of advertising. Not the case here. Not the case for us. And then you'll see, if you add the 64% for campus visits, the 50% for college websites, if you add all these together, you'll see that kids are doing not 1 or 2, but they're doing 3 or 4 of these things. I guess for the higher education company, it's similar to what we do here. We refer to it as omnichannel. I don't know what you refer to it as, but these kids, they're not doing any one thing. Half, 48% of freshmen, recall, this is a recall question, recall seeing an ad for the school they're attending on these platforms. Okay? Right off the bat, half recalled seeing something for the school they just joined. And of that half, like 32%, 32 out of the 50%, so roughly 60% of those with recall, Facebook. They remembered seeing something on Facebook. 28% said Instagram, 15% Twitter. And again, these all have different audience compositions. You'll see YouTube and Snapchat. Percent of colleges using these digital formats. We saw social was huge. We saw that it's a leading way kids are investigating schools, looking at schools. But only 2/3 of colleges, universities are using Facebook ads to talk to prospective customers. Display is broken out a little differently. You don't see any one display banner ads, display ads other, display pop-up. You don't see anything over 50%. But again, if you add it all display together, it would exceed 50. And then retargeting can be huge, huge. And as a matter of fact, these people are less bothered by being retargeted and followed online than anyone else. That's your 45 plus that are really suspicious of retargeting.
Yeah, this is the slide that I really gravitated to because it shows that side. What I look is the blank space over here. You know, when we look at these kind of foundational principles that we talked about earlier with the trends, and you just mentioned retargeting, search, these being so powerful, but a lot of people aren't here. This is where I see the huge opportunity. Right. Whereas Facebook, everybody's there, you know, you're competing with a ton, and we still recommend it. We're very bullish on it. But at the same time, let's look at all the platforms and make sure we're making a holistic, great decisions across the board on that.
Right. So again, I will never know as much about your job as you do, right? But I do know that historically, colleges and universities used to only target the youngest adults, and today we've seen extended programs geared towards adult learners that includes continuing education and online programs, none of which existed when I was a teenager, right? We also know that there's a potential shortage of skilled workers, and this is going to drive demand towards trades. This may be a challenge for the four-year university, where a segment of prospective students go on a different track. We also know that state and federal agencies are looking at cuts, right, to support institutions. We know that, again, the price of a four-year college is a deterrent for many. We know that to address future issues, especially regarding possible insufficient revenues, many colleges are considering new master's programs. And we know universities are trying to do a better job at targeting in-state students. And historically, traditionally, where we looked at something like a 100-mile radius, that may have to be expanded if everyone starts doing this, if you want to not just survive, but thrive. Regarding these youngest adults, the undergraduate and the graduate, and those people doing it online, we know that when it comes to these folks, these young adults, more than anyone else, those are the folks who are more likely to rent, who are single but cohabitate. If they have children, they're under the age of 2. They're more likely to only vote during presidential elections. They're more likely than everyone else to attend music festivals, beer and wine festivals, to celebrate New Year's Eve out at a restaurant, bar, or hotel. We know these are the folks most likely to shop in store on Black Friday, more likely to play soccer and basketball, to own an iPhone, and to provide feedback directly to a brand through social media. That's who these people are. They're the most likely to perform streaming and to use Airbnb and Uber more than anyone else. When they're purchasing things, when they address a purchase, they are more likely to base that based on wanting to feel proud, successful, and attractive. How you get that into your message is up to you. We also know, lastly, that when it comes to retail, these folks believe that stores that advertise frequently must be doing better than stores who don't. That may or may not be true, but it's their perception, as is the fact that these are the folks who are most likely to say advertising on my mobile app, my mobile phone, is useful to me. Again, a lot different than the college student from just 10, let alone 20 years ago.
Right. so they're not seen as obtrusive as other people?
Not at all.
Well, you just teed up a heck of a lot of competition there,
It's a lot.
and you teed up a lot of insights on the prospective student and how to find them. Well, we're going to talk about some of the platforms that we always find to be the foundations of that. But before I get into that, I think we want to talk about the path to decision. Maria is going to take us on this, and I love that in your talk right there, you talked about that 100-mile radius on finding not only in-state but close proximity. So, Maria, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, as Murray highlighted, your path is not going to look the same for every student. So as a marketer, that obviously makes your job a little tricky, but it also lets you know that it's really important to be everywhere, which can be a little overwhelming, but it's definitely, something that you need to consider and something that a company like ours or other agencies can help you with. And it's much easier than it looks. It's not as intimidating as it may seem. So this is just an example. We have a student here who is just beginning the college search, about 17 years old, and looking for an in-state school. And I put in here just, far away from home, that his parents can't come unannounced. I think a lot of students feel that way. They're ready to spread their wings, but maybe not too far. And he's interested in engineering. So this kind of walks through the process. The student will originally start with like a search, just kind of look what the options are in state. Then they may take a tour. And as we were working on this, I did some research of my own as far as what does this look like now. It's been a few years since I've been in college, so it's definitely changed. There are a lot of things you can do that are not paid media that would also be extremely helpful in this search. YouTube, for example, there were a lot of examples of campus tours, interviews with students, just other ways that students can connect and find out more information in a really, passive manner. From there is being targeted on social platforms, and it kind of helps this person drill down in their search, narrow down on what schools they're looking for, and maybe even help them through the process of kind of figuring out what their specialization might be when they get to school. Just kind of pushes them into that research section and, funnels them along through the process to eventually get to the application phase. But again, this is just one path. It can look a million different ways. So it's really important that you're not only utilizing all these platforms, but that these platforms are working together for a common goal.
Very nice. Yep, a lot of platforms there. Now I want to talk about what I call like the 3 pillars of the foundations of marketing. We use a lot for a lot of our clients. I think for education, it's just phenomenal to look at these, and we're going to also look on how they work together. So when we talk about search, we'll be talking about Google and Bing, on the search components. Gmail and YouTube are certainly there. Maria talked about YouTube and the tours and things that are available with that video platform that are so strong. We've got social, Facebook. We talked earlier, Murray talked about, I think it was 62% or 68% people that are using it. Still strong platform. Instagram, Snapchat coming up there. Twitter, we don't want to not include them, but not quite as strong as some of the other platforms of what we've been seeing. And then R2B programmatic, it's kind of a catch-all of all that display side. So you got display, which is still incredibly powerful, and we're going to talk about retargeting on that. Connected TV, do a shameless plug on one of our webinars. We did a whole webinar completely on connected TV. Pre-roll video, so a chance to put your video out in front of your audience outside of YouTube, so on different platforms of where your audience is. Programmatic audio, and then native when you want to blend into another environment. So like I said, these I believe are the 3 pillars of success, and we're going to really dig in more on how they work together than just really the platform itself. But search, I might go just a little bit deeper than some of the others. Search, I kind of put 101 to 501 up here because it can, I can do it, but there's other people that can do it better. And I mean our campaign managers rather than me being a customer experience. So it can be very rudimentary, but it can go in the weeds real quick. And to be really good at it, you've got to just know it inside and out. So some of what we consider our best practices are just simple keyword analysis, making sure you're using negative keywords, the text ad composition, make sure you're doing A/B testing and testing the text in those ads, landing pages. These are super critical because Google says, where are you sending this traffic? When people click, where's it going? And they're going to bonus you if that landing page connects the dots between the click and the page that they see. A person in our office calls it fulfilling the promise. I always think that's just a great way to look at it. Ad extensions, those things, the site links, the call outs, text, could be the phone number, could be a specific degree information out there, very strong component to that. And you always want to be doing your optimizations that are driving to your particular KPI that you have established. Geo-effectiveness, I'm going to breeze over this. We're going to touch more on proximity later when we talk about decisions that people are looking for in schools. And then I call this kind of our beyond section. It's where I think Edtechsy really excels beyond the basics of search. Retargeting is one principle. But then there's the search pacing tool. What this does is says, we want to look at your budget and we want to make sure we're spending it wisely through the day, through the week, and through the month, so that after the first week, we haven't taken 80% of your budget. You're looking at 20% left for the rest of the month. So that allows us to pace appropriately to get you the best bang on that. Error checking scripts. There's a lot of times when there's broken links that happen out there. Your web developer changed something and you didn't go back into your ad set and change that. Well, we have scripts that can check for that. We can see if Google, Facebook, or whoever, even outside of search, other platforms that we have, check to make sure the ads are all approved, something didn't get disapproved. Pixel firing, making sure those pixels that are down on your website are firing appropriately. And with all of our campaigns, whether it's search, social, RTB, email, everything, we look at conversion tracking. So we go back all the way to conversion tracking, not just impressions and clicks and those kind of glorified vanity metrics. Big takeaway
Bob,
here.
I'm sorry. I wanted to kind of talk about your mobile portion that you touched on. I think that's something I know everyone's kind of aware of, but I don't know if everyone really understands the magnitude of how this can affect your campaign. Google actually is making it mandatory that you have that mobile website, mobile optimized site. So it's not something that you really, you want to kind of not address fully. They're actually going to be doing mobile first indexing as a default. So it's really going to affect how you show up on the page, how people are able to find you. And I think in the past, I know even today I come across sites that are not mobile optimized as a user, and obviously someone in this business, it's frustrating, but it is not only a great way, it's a quick way to lose users, but it's also, really going to affect your performance.
Absolutely. I look at it, it is different, but landing pages, the way Google says, where are you sending this? They do the same thing with mobile. It's like, what's the experience they're going to have on your mobile site? So excellent point on that. But the takeaway for me on this is that search is going to round out your program. And in that earlier slide that Murray talked about, 41% of colleges and universities are using search, which is just baffling to me. I think they're trying to build the awareness. They're forgetting this bottom funnel of that. But search truly rounds out a program. It is the like batting fourth cleanup. You've got other ones going to bat for you first, and then here comes search to knock a home run for you. And it truly works with the other platforms. So let's talk about how it works with search and social, or with social, I should say. This is an internal study, and this is one we looked at. We had some of our BI team say, hey, let's take a bunch of our search counts, take a bunch of our social accounts, and let's look at those individually, but then let's see of those that overlap, that have both, which we found 286 in this case, ones where we had clean data and we could analyze that. And we looked at the CPA. And in this instance, we are not looking at CPC. I just want to be clear. CPA being like it could be a form fill, could be a sign up for a newsletter, could be a phone call, could be a purchase if it's an e-commerce. And again, these are accounts broadly. This isn't just the education market. This is across multiple sectors, categories of businesses. And when we looked at search alone, these businesses that were only running search, their cost per action, CPA was $20.60. Social performed a little bit better, $17.80. But for those accounts that said, you know what, we want to have search and social together, what we found is the CPA dropped down to $10.32. So that's a 46% decrease in CPA. So again, it's that search component helping out that upper funnel part of social to play clean, what I just call playing cleanup on that side. And so it drives down that CPA and it makes it just an incredible 1-2 punch. Now let's take the 1-2 punch and bring it over to RTB, display, for lack of a better word for some people, the acronym real-time bidding might not resonate. But here we took 1,000 accounts that were search only, and these were 2019 accounts. Again, we're looking at CPA, cost per action. And then we found 250 accounts with clean data that paired search and RTB. So when we look at this and we look over on the right, with our search only, it was $18.50. Those that added into, whoops, sorry, that was a premature click there. Those that have RTB included in that are $9.41. So similar to search was 46. This was 49% reduction in the cost per action. So again, that higher funnel work that you're doing so hard on, make sure you're playing cleanup with search. Such a critical component, and why we're so bullish. I've been watching too much CNBC or whatever, the finance channels, because I blew my knee out and I'm sitting on the couch too much. But anyway, we're super bullish on having products or platforms work together. And we talked about retargeting, and this is probably going to be a little bit more of our tactical approach to this webinar. Retargeting is incredibly powerful. These stats that I'm about to spit out are more broad. They are across all industries. So website visitors who retargeted with display ads are 70% more likely to convert. And yes, I'm going to read from some of this and expand a little bit. So 91% of marketers who use retargeting found it to perform the same or better than search, email, or other display ads. When I look at that one, a lot of times when we're meeting with clients or we hear, a lot of times they're hesitant with their retargeting budget. They think, well, gosh, I already spent money to kind of put an ad in front of them, and I got them to my site. Yeah, they left and they didn't do anything. And so they're like, I don't really want to put that much budget, but it is amazingly powerful. It's insanely low CPA. And it, like I said before, it works with your other marketing. And then 3 out of 5 online viewers notice and consider ads showing products they viewed from another page. This one I love because you're going to notice something that's a brand familiarity. So if you've already been to a website and you're retargeted, you're more likely to notice that banner ad than those banner ads that just show up randomly. So it's kind of that refresh there, and why I think that is such a strong stat on people noticing those ads. But now let's think about, how do we get them to notice them even more? So you do that through custom retargeting and making a personal connection. So now we're taking kind of retargeting, and I hate to use the term, but for the lack of a better term, putting it on steroids. It's a little cliche. Anyway, so someone comes into your page, they viewed your home page, you may want to retarget them with just a simple message, schedule a tour. As Murray talked before, most freshmen are coming in, they're looking at your campus. Then if they dig deeper in your site and they've gone to the campus life, they want to see the social activities, here's a retargeting ad that says something for everyone. Dig a little bit further, they looked at your oceanography, your engineering, your business, whatever degree page it might be. You're going to retarget with an image of that person doing that job and talking about that degree. So here's a simple one, change your future. You can imagine, you can put whatever text you want there. Financial assistance, we talked about the debt, overcoming that, that being more of an issue now. So in this retargeting ad, when someone comes to that page on your site, you may want to have something just, we help make your dreams affordable. So this creates that personal connection, and what we're seeing is that elevates just simple retargeting to the next level, and why we're such advocates on that side of it. And this is probably, like I said, is more tactical than we're going to get in some of this, but we are going to show you some ads as well. So now, decision making. Murray talked about some of the things that people look at, but let's also look at how do they go about choosing that college? And I'm going to breeze through these next 3 slides. I'm going to read from the slides, and then we're going to take that, put that together, and kind of put it in what I call buckets. So we're going to have 7 buckets come out of these next 3 slides. So top reasons for choosing a college: reputation. Has a very good reputation. College graduates get good jobs. I was offered financial assistance. The cost of attending college, goes back to the previous one, number 3, a visit to the campus. College has a great reputation this time for social activities, not just academics. I wanted to go to a college about this size. College grads get into another grad, so they're already looking ahead and saying, what are the professional schools, what are other grad schools that I might get into after this? So they're even looking a step ahead. The percentage of students that graduate, hey, am I going to be in that 89%? Because I would really like to be that. If it's 70, I'm going to get a little scared. And I wanted to live near home. We talked about, Maria talked about, want to be close enough to home, but not have my parents drop in. So top reasons for not attending a college: the cost, the environment, location of school, the financial aid, was it available, was it not, academic reputation, proximity at home, we just touched on that. They didn't offer the major I wanted. Merit-based scholarship I received, it wasn't big enough. Best value, we're going to touch on that some more about value, and the reputation in my intended field of study. Murray would like to chime in.
Well, I just find it incredibly interesting, and again, this is coming from inside higher ed, that they didn't offer their major I wanted. You would intuitively think, well, that's the very first thing. If you want to be, let's say, an accountant, and that school doesn't offer an accounting degree, right, a business degree of some sort, right off the bat, that school is out of contention. But on this list, it didn't fall until slot number 7. All these other things that keep people, one-fourth of Americans are lying awake at night concerned about their money situations. Cost of attendance, financial aid, I'm going to rephrase that, I didn't receive, right? These other things all have to be addressed well before even the major.
Strong, thanks, good insight. And then the top reasons for not wanting to attend a college at all. No one in my family's gone, why should I?
And that's shrinking.
All right. I'm glad I see I got my gentleman with 2.7 children next to me. So he's keeping me honest and adding a little bit more color than myself. They didn't do well in high school, so they don't think they're going to do well. They don't know how to choose a college. You're going to see that. We're going to dive into that a lot more, or a little bit more on another slide. They just don't even know where to start and if they're doing it right. They don't think they will fit in. That goes back to that social activities in the previous slide. And they think college is unaffordable. So those are 3 slides that I wanted to quickly go through because we wanted to say there's a lot of crossover there. That person said that was a reason for attending, it was a reason not attending. So what we did was we just said there's themes here, let's bucketize these themes and then dig into them. So we're going to talk about reputation, dig into that theme, the environment, the size, location, you guys can read the slide, but cost, value assistance, degrees offered, selection process, and post-graduation. So those are the 7 themes. We're going to break them down, but you're going to have to take a break from me, and Maria is going to walk us through these.
Yes, thanks. So when we started doing this webinar, we were kind of pulling together some information, and something I kind of put in the back of my head was that I did spend all 4 years of college as an admissions counselor, basically, as a student counselor. So a lot of this, I've actually heard these questions myself. I was calling prospective students every day and answering these questions, trying to figure out what was keeping them from making a decision, what kind of information they need, and how we could help. I was also answering an email, and I'm sure a lot of you online are familiar with Ohio State and being a Buckeye. So I was the Ask a Buckeye. I was the Buckeye behind the email, and I was able to just kind of see a different perspective. Obviously, talking on the phone and versus email, you're getting very different questions because people tend to be a little bolder on email. So that really helped when we were kind of working through this. Reputation, I think, is a big one, and we talked about it. Not every school has top name recognition. And what is your unique selling proposition? not, again, I'm from an area where we have a lot of different choices. Not all of them have recognition like Ohio State, which obviously you would know around the country, but that does not mean they're not good schools. They have different things to bring to the table. When we were working on this, I spoke with some of our sales reps, and we did have a school we worked with on the West Coast who had a unique school that they were working through this process. And I believe we're going to go into more detail later as far as the specifics, but I thought it was interesting that their focus wasn't necessarily on, you know, we have a great engineering program or whatever. Their focus was that they were a nonprofit school, and their kind of overall goal was to create better citizens and people who are using their career to give back in some way, maybe more a philanthropic, you know, just a kind of a different approach. And I thought that was really unique, and it's something that stands out. Again, when we're talking about the kind of climate we're in, with people are concerned with finances and what's going on in the world, I feel like people are much more globally aware than maybe previously. That was a really unique selling point that helps them stand out in the marketplace. So it can be something like that that really differentiates them. They also had a great study abroad program. That's something a lot of students are interested in. Again, can kind of distinguish you in the market. Lastly, theirs was a nonprofit university, but to offset the cost, they provided a lot of financial assistance. So you can kind of see there's different areas you can highlight, and I would definitely recommend not just choosing one. You know, highlight all of these areas. Some people are looking for a good mix. And that kind of covers a lot of this top portion where we're talking about, you know, costs and things like that. If your school maybe is lower tuition costs, it doesn't mean that it's a lower quality. And especially like we said in this climate, that's a big win for a lot of people. What can they get for their money? You know, maybe this is a great starting point for them to get some of those just basic credits down, and then you can kind of work with them through that. After they've completed that portion. What makes your school stand out? You know, services on campus, you know, again, how are they able to give back through school, or maybe research opportunities? There's a lot of different things you can highlight there. And just kind of the insights, you know, here are just some quick tips that we would suggest. There are a lot of different things you could use to highlight this reputation portion in particular, but use the top of the funnel awareness campaigns to influence those prospective students. You're trying to get in front of them initially, and then based on their actions, you can nurture them from there. So that's just kind of a starting point. Again, we talked about social media. It's definitely a place you must be, but I would not say, like we talked about Facebook, you know, and kind of the usage there. They're on a variety of platforms, so definitely take a look at, you know, how you can get in front of them in different ways. We also partner with Snapchat, and they have a lot of cool, unique opportunities to get in front of students or get in front of audiences that will help you stand out. And then YouTube, obviously we talked about the tours and things like that. So that's a great place for you to get those bumper ads on the front of the back of those videos that you're getting in front of students. You may even want to kind of focus on, you know, college in general and a specific geo. So it's not necessarily your college they're looking at. They may be looking at another college and see your ad and kind of prompt that, oh, you know, I didn't even give that school a thought.
Just to make a note, the reason that we have some white space on some of these ads, we have NDAs with many of our universities, practically all of them. So that's why we cover up names on some of these,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Environment and size, and these are a lot of the same things that Bob covered. You know, how are they going to fit in? What's available on campus? Activities, social, academics. You know, and what does an average day look like for a student? You know, these are a lot of questions that students have, and especially if they're choosing some of the larger schools. I think that's definitely a big concern is, am I going to be lost? When I was working in the admissions office, one of the questions I got frequently was, well, I don't want to just be a number. You know, I want some one-on-one attention. How do I make that happen when there's 55,000 students? These are great things that I think you should tackle head on, and it will help kind of alleviate those concerns before they kind of dive farther into the process. It's great to address them. You know, even in an ad, you can say, you're not just a number. Here are ways you can get involved, or maybe highlight programs that would make the university feel more intimate by things like, honors and scholars programs or other programs that will help them kind of find their small group and then make it feel more like a home. And on the contrary, students who are looking at smaller schools want to know, how can they make that work for them. That's the other side where you can talk about the community that they get from that university, and then also kind of highlight opportunities that come from being at a smaller school. Again, with the insights, KPI should focus on, the campus visit. So we talked about, directing them to scheduling a tour, but I think in this opportunity, it shows that you can direct them to specific tours, maybe an honors and scholars tour, maybe, just whatever they're interested in. I know in an engineering school tour, they give a lot of specific tours, and that's a way to really personalize that message and for students to see, hey, they do have some of the things that I'm looking for. Again, with the messaging, you want to tout things that your school stands out for. Number 2, faculty resources. We have top research university or top medical performance. There's a lot of different things that you can put on there.
Yeah, and that accepting applications, it's one that we've found that just, a lot of people think it's so exclusive, and just having something more welcoming out there is a strong one. Hey, Maria, we're bumping up on 2 o'clock here pretty soon, so this is definitely the crux and great information. So hopefully people can stay on we'll run over by a couple bit, but just to be cognizant.
Yeah. No problem, and to let you know, we will send out the full webinar afterward. Again, location, we talked about location, ease of travel, being far but not too far, and then there's other students who want to get as far away as possible. Definitely look at where your students have come from in the past, promote, in those areas, and then there may be areas you want to kind of get more students to pull from. Again, from my experience, we had some areas that were underserved, that we really focused on because they offer different scholarships for those students who maybe came from, these other small town areas where they would be the first generation to go to college. There's a lot of messaging choices, and definitely you don't want a blanket message. You want to make sure that your message is really tailored to what your geo is, because, something as simple as that can really impact those application numbers. And again, we talked about surrounding areas. It's not necessarily just your school. Talk about what's available to the students in that area. Maybe they get discounts at, things around the city that are, a draw, sports activities, things like that, where they can have a bigger experience than just that campus life. Cost. Obviously, this is a hot topic right now. Financial aid, everyone is looking for financial aid. I think it's really important to talk about what your money gets you. You're paying all this money, what are you going to get out of it? Talk about what is available on campus with career assistance. How you're working with students for internships. What is the average length of graduation? Obviously, that may vary by degree, but I do think, it's important just to address that up front. It is a question everyone seems to have right now, and it's important to kind of get that, just get it out there and how you're able to work with them through that process, and then what that looks like in the long run. Again, messaging is really important. Flexible options, affordable prices. Some students are looking to, slowly complete their degree, so that's an option to be able to kind of work with them. And again, highlight internships, job placement opportunities, just additional resources that they can find that will help them so they're not out of college, kind of feeling lost and getting those student loan, payments in right away. I know mine came in, I think 6 months after graduation. So it's always a little nerve-wracking, like, what am I going to do? So there are a lot of things that you can highlight as a school to say that, this is how we can help prepare you, and that will kind of alleviate some of that fear.
Awesome.
Degrees, again, we talked about this. Yeah, and Murray really talked about this as well. This may be a way for someone to look, hey, this school doesn't have my degree, I'm not interested. And I know, again, from my experience, we got a lot of this. I got this question actually quite a bit. You don't have what I'm looking for, so I'm not interested. I think a lot of schools, specifically now, are able to customize those programs. One thing that we offered, and I'm assuming it's still available, is that you can create your own study, create your own major. If it's not on the page, no problem. We can work with you. You can work with a counselor to go ahead and customize what you are looking for and make that program up yourself. And then in the long run, you could be helping other students. I think that's a great selling point to get out to people and show them, we're more than just this list we're putting out here. There's just so many options. We can't categorize everything. And again, I think another thing that you run into is people who are undecided. They want to go to school, but they're not quite sure what that path looks like. I was one of those people. I think it's really important too that you can talk about, you may not know your path. We're here to help you. You can get some of those credits out of the way that you'll need regardless of your major. And then we offer programs that can assist you in making that decision. Targeting is key. And we talked about that, kind of that personalized messaging and making sure that you're using dynamic ads that are really speaking to what that user has done in the past. Bob, did you want to add a little bit about the targeting portion?
I don't want to go too deep, but we talk about first party, third party on the right-hand side. Obviously, looking at your CRM data and doing lookalike models, we can match out of Facebook and build models like that. It's an easy way to waste money. Is spending money on broad ads, and I'm going to dig into this a little bit further, but when you have degrees and you can post those, and as Maria talked about, customize them, you can target your audience and be a lot more effective rather than just wasting spend with just broad ads.
Yeah, and we've talked about retargeting. We can't harp on it enough. Especially dynamic retargeting. And this is a lengthy process. This is a big commitment, both time and expenses. You want to stay in front of people, giving them messages, and don't give them the same message every time. I've worked on the ops side as well. You don't want to have the same retargeting ad for everyone, or even show them the same retargeting ad each time. You can set up recency and different techniques that will, if a person's been in the pool this long, let's show them this ad. If they've been in, over 30 days, let's show them a different ad, and just really show them different messages that will, trigger interest.
Awesome.
Again, selection process. I think this is another question we talked about that is really important. Is college right for them? Maybe they're overwhelmed with picking the whole process. They don't know what their long-term career choice might be. That's something like we talked about with the undecided. There are definitely ways to nurture them specifically and kind of talk about, it's okay if you don't know, we can help you through that process and help you succeed. And again, they're looking to check all the boxes. Just a lot of questions come up around these. Parents and students, especially the parents, I would say, want to make sure if they're helping their student get into a school and obviously finance that decision, they want to make sure it's the right choice, and then they're going to get something in return. They're going to be successful afterward. Again, you have a lot of information available at your fingertips just from what you talk about with students every day. Definitely utilize those conversations, the feedback that you've gotten, and turn that into how you're addressing people in your advertising across platforms. And again, we talk about, some of the questions are part-time, again, accepting applications. Maybe there are students who would like to do the process a little more gradually, do the part-time, get a few classes under their belt until they feel like they can handle the workload, and then add to it. And lastly, we talked about Gmail. Gmail offers a great way to effectively target just right in that email box. There are a lot of targeting options that will help you really narrow down on who you're trying to get in front of and make that message very specific or very tailored to who is seeing that.
And I'll talk about this They Ask You Answer. I'm not getting paid for this endorsement, but this is a book that Marcus Sheridan wrote, and he was a pool person, and he answered every possible question anybody could have on his website, and he turned his SEO and his business around with that. He was about to lose it. The market had crashed, everything. But it's a great book on just answering every question possible on your site, even the most uncomfortable ones. He did that and being very honest with it. You know, for him, it was like this pool compared to that pool, this price for that. But you know, if you're questioning content on your site, it's just a good read. Some good YouTube videos out there on him as well, just to kind of see his perspective on that. And I think it's really refreshing on how they go about that. He calls it a revolutionary approach, but it's not quite revolutionary. That was the newspaper reporting. But anyway, just a plug on a book there.
Yeah, and that goes back to the transparency and the authenticity. I mean, it's great to see something that's been very, you know, like a video that is really nice and polished. But I will say, and a lot of people are looking for things that are authentic. You know, your video choices or your ads don't always have to be professionally done. Interview a student on campus. You know, use things like that can be really helpful. So they can tell that the person on the other side hasn't been prompted. They're giving you a really authentic just impression of what their day looks like, and that will kind of ease some of the concerns.
Yeah. And apologize for going over for people. Hopefully you can stick on. We probably got about another 5 minutes of information. Hopefully you can stay on, and again, the webinars are available, but when we practiced this, it wasn't quite as long, so go ahead.
That's okay. And post-graduation, again, it ties back into the finances, and Murray really hit on this too. It's a big concern right now. People want to know, when I get out of college, am I going to be prepared for the job market? Am I going to be able to, you know, pay back what maybe I have taken out in loans? You know, are there resources available to help with that? Again, graduation rate, you know, what does that percentage look like? How long does it take to get out? So what does that financial commitment look like? And I think a big one on here that we talked about was alumni connection after graduation. I know this varies by school size and program and things like that. I personally have found that alumni connections are huge and definitely something you want to stress in your messaging. You know, I chose to leave my home state when I had graduated. I needed to kind of test the waters and see what I could do. And the first thing I did when I moved was connect with my alumni association. They became a great resource. They had a lot of events that were networking events. It was an easy way to already have a connection with people, to be able to talk about different industries, maybe make some job connections. I found it hugely beneficial. And it's not just your school alumni. Maybe you have a bigger alumni network, like I had the Big Ten alumni network. Again, we'd have Big Ten events where we would have networking opportunities to meet other students, and those students already have a connection that they can discuss, and it really does help in the job market and your career, because you have something right away in common, and you're able to build those, I guess, those helpful connections to propel your career. Again, we talk about insights, educate on, you know, on your school success. You know, students have found jobs afterward. Highlight a video of someone who's an alumni again and say, you know, here was my experience after school. You want to profile those graduates and their successes. Use images that convey a story. Everyone's very visual, and we talk a lot about, you know, the videos invoking emotion, and people get connected, and that's a great way for them to then be kind of move down the funnel of interest. And again, talk about, are your graduates top of demand? What kind of salary? Just be very transparent, because people want that authenticity.
Awesome. So now let's tie this back to what Maria talked about. And this is one client example. So all these ads are from the same client. I'm going to try to speak a little bit faster. So here we got learn how this university can help you achieve a boundless future. So that one's going to speak to grad success. This is a Facebook ad, then we're going to employ a video in there to further drive engagement on that. We know video appeals to a lot of people on that. Rank top 10 schools, and now we're going to appeal to the reputation. Then we go into affordable education. Got a tuition reset for this, appeals to the value and cost. And then finally, another Facebook ad on appealing to the value of cost here with affordable education. These three on the left, to display in a Facebook ad, all promote a campus visit. So we're driving to that end KPI of what they want. So let's talk about what this client's program looked like. And rather than boil down all the numbers of they had so many enrollments, they had so many clicks, so many impressions, all that, I believe that people tell you how good you're doing when they vote with their dollars. And in this case, they voted for 138% increase in year 2 and 18%, well, we're proposing an 18% in year 3. So in year 1, how we captured this business was simple. The head of marketing was new, and they came as a previous client for us. So that was pretty simple on that side. The campaign that we did in this first year, that's for $60,000, we did RTB and social and layered in video on the social. Quantum is our proprietary performance algorithm that we have. We have site information on our site. I'm not going to delve in it too much, but it accelerates performance for these platforms like RTB and social. A massively segmented approach. Here we took every degree, ran ads for that, and broke it down for graduate and undergraduate. Then we updated ads every 6 weeks. Maria kind of touched on that, making sure your retargeting ads are updated. You don't want to bore people. And then we talked about in the last slide with campus visits. At this time, they were doing 3 a year, and we were promoting those, and we got section after section growth. Pardon. They also had the tuition reset that we talked about in that last ad there. They got so much mileage out of this. We promoted it for the next 5 months by looking at, is the CPA still driving it? Are the people engaged? Is it still resonating with people? And it was so strong that we had record enrollment for the school. Year 2, we won their search business, and that was 138% budget increase. So it wasn't organic. We actually added a platform. Now we're in a 3-platform. College implemented the tuition reset for a graduate program. And so here we sorry, I got interrupted. It's throwing me off a little bit. We leveraged the previous program for that tuition reset for undergrad, now bringing it to graduate, again, exceeding their expectations. Now we added a 5th visit day for this, going from 3 to 5, and again, kind of use those same tactics and continuous attendance growth for visit days. So those were the KPIs that they really wanted to see. Some growth on that, growth in enrollment always. Year 3, we're going to break out of that foundational principles, and we're going to layer in some kind of those kind of progressive things. So we're proposing an increase in Snapchat and looking at Gmail as well. So we're a modest increase of 18% now that we've got those 3 foundational principles down between RTB, social, and search. So now, talking about KPIs, I'm going to hand it back to Maria, and then we'll wrap it up very fast.
Yes, thank you. Again, talking about those KPIs, applications, obviously, sending people to that application page and then measuring how many convert from there. Campus visit, again, this doesn't necessarily have to be your main visit. You can set up separate KPIs per visit. Maybe, again, it's the engineering program, or it is just an honors and scholars program. There are a lot of different options there. Financial aid page views, that's a really great kind of gauge on seeing how many page views you're getting. You can look at those numbers and then optimize your campaign on the back end. Okay, this is the kind of traffic we're seeing. Maybe we need to put out more of these messages to address it. Video completion views, and that really helps with A/B testing especially. You can kind of look at, where people are the most interested, and from there, maybe adjust your messaging. Like virtual tour views, newsletter, and this one is that one I found. It's a great way just to capture people who are maybe interested but not really ready to move into the process. So capturing those people, maybe you sent for a newsletter or prospect email sign up. It's very, non-threatening. They can just put in their email address, know they're going to be getting more content updates, and that's a great kind of gauge to see what that audience looks like. And then obviously specific page views.
Awesome. Again, apologies for going a little bit long on this, but hopefully everybody found it to be a great information. Just a quick wrap up. Murray covered all that research, student media. I think I plowed on the 3 pillars of a multi-platform and that performance when you start using platforms together. We did touch on something more tactical with custom retargeting. Maria walked us through the 7 key decision-making criteria, and then we really brought it home with that client that has all 3 programs. Where do we want to progress that client, what they're doing with their budget, what success they're seeing, what KPIs they're driving with their campus visits, and looking at how things go to enrollment when they do the tuition reset. So all that was great. Sorry that we went long. We did practice this and it was shorter, but when you have great information, you want to share it. So appreciate it. Big shout out to Murray and Maria and all the people that stayed on the call. Again, this webinar, we'll be sending it out. We'll be answering questions. Obviously, we don't have time right now. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks for another webinar. Thanks a lot.